so I'm excited. But you know what? The important people are here, right? The ones who are going to make the money. So, any wins or successes? What good things? All right.
Somebody. I don't want to have to do the warm up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Phil, it's up to you to get them warmed up again. So, nothing. All right. Well, I guess it's up to you then. See what you got.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody. So, did everyone go to Summit? Yeah. And do you remember what Jeremy said the big focus was going to be for you guys for the first part of the year?
Get 100
Bingo.
people.
Get 100 names in your database. Has everybody done that?
Since yesterday?
It was 2 days ago. Come on, Dave.
Come on, you can go on Facebook and do it in 10 minutes. Just pull your friend list off, right? So, when you start thinking about that, if you don't have those 100 people, it can be a little challenging, right? To come up with that. So, part of our effort to help you, I have, now I'm not competing with Everest Sales System, maybe I should cover this up.
That's what Dylan's here for. So
Says Ninja, but
All good.
150 things you may not think of to put that into your database. Okay? If any of you guys want this, come downstairs and see me. I'll send you a PDF of it or whatever. Okay? Just to help. Okay? Does anybody have any questions that they've come up with on the mortgage side of things since last we met that I can help you with? Right here, right now, because I'm trying to warm you up. Come on. Just ask what the rates are.
Hey Phil, what are the rates right now?
Oh, thanks for asking. They're fantastic. They're as low as they've ever been. It's a great time to buy. So we would love to help you. This is the slow time of the year. We know that. We're actually, this just started yesterday. We do have an underwriter on site if anybody was in the Morning Ascent. I brought her up because she's really interested in Everest culture and all that stuff. So she's actually going to start underwriting people that have pre-qualified, and we're going to have fully approved subject to title and appraisals. So
Which that's huge, guys. In case you don't.
we can close things like
That's huge.
10 days or less. So it won't last forever because we're expecting to get busier as time goes by. But and the buying season kicks up. But anyway, if you have anybody, we would love to help you. We're there for you. I hope you have a good 2 hours, and I'm out. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks,
Okay,
Phil.
thanks, buddy.
All right, so one other thing before we get going. So we've got Dylan Cooley here, which I don't know how many of you guys know Dylan or not know him, but I just asked him if he'd come in and talk to you guys for a minute about the Elevate, the Elevate 2020. I was like,
30.
Yeah, 30.
No, so I'm just gonna be quick. I know you guys have a lot to do with the rest. So, has everyone heard about Everest Cell Systems? For the most part, everyone heard of the event coming up? This is gonna be an awesome event. So let me get a pen on your phone. So it's gonna be for Everest agents, you guys get a discount. So it'll be $145. I know. I've been there too as a new agent. It's a lot. It's like it's stressful because maybe you don't have anything going or a lot of stuff going right now. But I can assure you that the $145 is worth it. It's going to be 2.5 days with George Morris. He's going to be going. So I'm his son-in-law. It's hard for me to even get 2.5 days with him, let alone. So it's going to be awesome. He's going to be teaching, instructing how to build your business, how to set up for this new year. Also, we're going to have Tina Hare. He was talking about, if you were in the morning meeting today, she's earning over $2.5 million a year, and she does all SOI. So she's going to go into in-depth on SOI and how to build your business SOI. Like Phil talked about, getting those 100 names, it's super important, and you can see what Tina's done with that, making over $2 million a year with that. So it's gonna be an awesome event. Come talk to me. I'll put my phone number up here. And so, do you have any questions?
What time is it? Like, what time is it gonna start?
So it is gonna start. So this is a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Tuesday and Wednesday are from 8:30 to 4:30. There'll be a lunch break in there. And Tina, she'll be there Tuesday afternoon. It's like from after lunch up to the end of the session. Then on Thursday, it's from 8:30 to noon. Just half
On
day.
Friday, you mean?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, yep. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, half day on Thursday. Any other questions?
Yeah, how do you get the discount when you're?
Come talk to me.
Okay.
I'll get that for you.
Okay.
Make sure you get the discount, yeah. Because so everyone else, so we do have agents from other companies. We have people traveling from other states also to come hear him speak. So, and it's downtown at the Marriott Hotel. It's super local, nice and easy.
So, I'm assuming just like as you get in, there's no seat reservation, it's just.
No seat reservations, so get there early, be able to get front row, and yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna
Someone saved me a spot.
That's gonna, maybe you should sell some premium seating
be,
to.
we talked about that, but it's everyone's been asking about that. So yeah, and it's going fast, and so we just barely started registration on Monday. It's starting to get filled up really fast, and so it's gonna be pretty intimate, 100 to 150 people there. So you guys should come talk to me, call me. I'm up here, so here we go. Good day.
Cool, thanks, Dylan.
Yep.
All right. SOI, we're going to talk about today since that kind of has been the theme when we're all doing. But here's where I want to start, though. Is we're actually going to start this talking a little bit about different. There's technically four different groups of people that you're going to work with. Now, the reason I say technically four, one of them you're not going to work with, so there's really only three. So I want to start you with this in talking about these three groups. So we're going to spend most of the time on your SOI, which is going to be the last one. But before we get to that, I want to make sure you understand who the other two groups are as well and how it works. Because we're going to work with all of these, but we're going to do them in different ways. So think of this. If I were to ask you, what makes someone a client? Now, before you answer that, I want to distinguish a couple of things with you. First thing being this. When you were in real estate school, you learned what made somebody a client, which is true from a legal standpoint. So what we're going to talk about, I'm not discounting the legal side of things, meaning keep that in mind. But in terms of a client, according to that, is just from a legal perspective. I want to talk about it, what makes someone a client from the perspective of making sure you get paid. Because they are a little bit different, meaning the piece from the division is included in what we're going to talk about in terms of what makes somebody a client, but having that does not mean you're going to get paid, okay? So think of it this way, is there's four things that would make someone a client. Now, some of this I'll probably have to help you guys on, but the other pieces I want to begin with, I want you to tell me. So what would have to happen for someone to be a client? What would they have to have, be, or do in order for them to be a client? And you can start with what you learned in real estate school, and that's fine because that is a piece of it. So, but in addition to that, what other things? So when you think about it, what would make someone be a client?
Listing agreement?
Okay, good. So they're going to sign an agreement. Now, that's from the legal standpoint, that's what makes someone a client. But what does that really mean? When they sign an agreement with you, what does that mean for them as far as them being a client?
The terms are spelled out?
Okay, yeah, and I probably didn't ask that very well, but I'm going to write it down as you. It means they're committed to working exclusively with you, right? When they sign an exclusive agreement, what they're telling you is you are going to be my agent, okay? So in order for someone to be a client, here's how I would say for you to write it down. They have to be committed to working exclusively with you. So that's what's going to make somebody a client, is they're committed to working exclusively with you. Now, is it possible that someone doesn't sign a buyer-broker agreement or even maybe a listing agreement, but more so on the buyer-broker side, Is it possible for somebody to be committed to working exclusively with you, but they haven't signed an agreement yet?
Implied agency.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, in their mind, they've just decided you are going to be their agent. They just haven't signed anything yet. Is it also possible, and maybe some of you have experienced this already, for somebody to sign a buyer broker agreement and then go buy a house with somebody else?
Like
That happens. So here's the key. That's the reason I'm not. Now again, from the legal side of things, you need to get buyer brokers and exclusive listing agreements signed. I'm not discounting that. But what I'm saying to you is, in order for someone to be a client, they just have to be committed to working exclusively with you, whether they've signed or not signed. Now, the way they're going to demonstrate that is by signing. But just because they sign doesn't mean they're committed to working exclusively with you, okay? Everybody good with what I'm saying? Okay. What else would they have to be or do in order to be a client? And I'll help you if we need to, but I'm trying to get you involved in the class, you know. All right, I'll give you the next one then. Now, I'm writing it down as need. I'm going to tell you how to write it down. Here's what I would write down if I were you. Is they have clear and present needs that can be met. So in order for someone to be a client, they have to have clear and present needs that can be met. Now, what does that mean? They have to have clear and present needs that can be met. But what does that mean?
Like they're ready to buy a house, they're pre-qualified, ready to get into the house.
Perfect. So they know, so yeah, think of it this way. They have clear and present needs that they know exactly what it is they want, whether it's buy or sell, whatever that is. They know what it is they want, and it's possible, is basically what that means. When I say clear and present needs that can be met, they know what it is they want to do, and it's actually realistic, it exists, it's possible to do it. That's what makes clear and present needs that can be met. Now, the other piece that usually people will bring up when I ask what does they have to have, be, or do, is they may say, well, they have to be qualified. Well, that would be part of clear and present needs that can be met. That's the can be met part of it, is they're qualified or they have cash. Whatever that is, but they have clear and present needs that can be met. Any other thoughts? What else would have to happen for somebody to be a client? And since it took you so long on the second one, I'll just give you the third. We'll skip that. All right. The next piece is now. So I'm writing it down as now. They need to be committed. So here's how I would say for you to write it down. They have to be committed to buying or selling now. So in order for someone to be a client, they have to be committed to buying or selling now. So with that, define now. So they have to be committed to buying or selling now. Now you guys define for me, what does now mean?
Like now, like right now.
Within 6 months.
Okay, so 6 months right now.
I don't know, 6 months, because I have some people that are interested in buying stuff like in spring and then in summer, but they're still not my clients because I feel like it's not a, how do you say that, concrete
Yeah.
sale or buy. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh. Makes sense, yeah. So here's how I define now. Now, what now means to me is tied to this. They have to have clear and present needs that can be met. Now means to me is not an exact tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or even 6 months. It could be either, I guess is what I'm saying. To me, what now means is once we know this, they're clear and present needs that can be met. Now means when we find it, or if it's a seller and we get an offer in that meets those clear and present needs, they're going to do it. So now doesn't mean have to be like tomorrow morning, but what it does mean is it's going to happen. Let me give you an example of what would not be now. I have a guy that used to be a neighbor of mine like 20 years ago. We moved, but I stayed in touch with him for a while because he was a builder and I was helping him sell properties as he would build them. Well, he went through, I don't remember if he got in an accident or what, but it was an accident. He got in an accident and was having some health issues, and as a result, he quit building for a while. But I ran into him years later, so we had stayed in touch for quite a while. After we were neighbors, I moved, we stayed in touch for quite a while. After I had moved, I ran into him years later, and he said, "Hey Russ, I'm sure you heard about the accident. I said, yeah, I did. And he said, yeah, so like I'm just waiting for the settlement to come in, and when that comes in, we're gonna go like crazy and build like humongous neighborhoods and blah blah all this stuff. Well, is that a now thing?
That's a pipe dream, no.
Yeah, when it's like when you hear somebody go, as soon as I get that settlement,
Yeah.
like as soon as you hear that, that's not now. Like now is if we find it, they can perform, and they know what it is, and they're prepared to do it once we find it. Does that make sense? So that's what now means. So don't get caught up in if I ever talk to you about are they a now buyer, to me or seller, what that means is if we find what they're looking for, they're prepared to do it, and not saying, well, yeah, as soon as the kids graduate from high school and they're in first grade, yep, we're gonna do it. You know, that's not now. All right. This last one is now more about management of a client, okay? But it's also a criteria that I think if you will follow this as your criteria of they have clear and present needs that they're committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're prepared to do it now. If you will follow these 4 things, you're gonna do deals. Now, this last one is, I'm gonna write it down as they have to be tethered. What does tethered mean?
Attached to you or attached
Okay,
to something.
so yeah, think of it that way. Just the word tethered, forget about real estate, but just something that is tethered means,
Attached.
yeah, attached or
I
tied
see
to,
what you're
connected, something like that, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is your client has to be tethered. Now, what do you think of, how would we tether a client to us?
Communication.
Okay, good. I like that, because a lot of times what people will say is through the buyer broker or the listing agreement. But that's up here, so it's not. So it's going to be through communication. Now, here's how I would say it. When you have somebody, now stop and think about this for a minute. If you had somebody who is committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're prepared to do it now, we want to keep them tethered to us. Think of it this way, as the way that we're going to tether them to us is with appointments. Meaning, if you had somebody, let's just talk about a buyer for a second. You had somebody that wanted to buy a $7 million house, and they were committed to working exclusively with you. They have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're ready to go now. How often would you want to be meeting with them?
Daily.
I mean, right? You get that, right? So here's what I'm saying is what happens, and let me tie it back up to this. Typically, agents, when they have somebody who is committed to working exclusively with them, or let me rephrase that, has signed a buyer-broker agreement with them. So you've gotten somebody who signed a buyer-broker with you, but then they go and they use somebody else to purchase, even though they signed a buyer-broker with you. Why do you think that happens? I mean, somebody comes in and they sign an agreement, yes, I'll use you, but then they end up not using them. And not you, but other agents. Why do you think that would happen to them?
It goes back to what you said in another class. They don't think that you're giving them enough attention.
That's right. It's typically what happens is when somebody gets frustrated, and I sit on the panel at the board for the professional standards to sit in on these cases. When somebody is saying, hey, they signed a buyer broker with me, but then they went and bought with somebody else. Almost every single time, in fact, I don't know if I can think of a time that it didn't happen, is what happens is they've signed a buyer broker with them, but then guess what the agent quits doing?
Communicating.
Staying in touch. And so as a result, the client gets frustrated and goes somewhere else. Now, so what I'm saying is in order for you to have a client, you have to have an appointment with them. You should never leave an appointment with a client without scheduling the next appointment. If you will do that, you will not, it's highly unlikely, that's probably a better way of saying it, it's highly unlikely that the client's going to go work with somebody else if you will constantly be scheduling the next appointment. So think of it that way. If you have somebody who is committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, they're ready to go now, you want to have an appointment with them. And when you leave that appointment, you want to schedule the next appointment. I say even the same thing with a seller. When you go out and list somebody's house, you should schedule another appointment with them before you even leave. Now, what would be the appointment before? What would I schedule an appointment with a seller for?
Be like a follow-up call, just like check in with them.
Okay, good. No question I want to do that. I want to set up with them that, hey, here's what we're going to do is I'm going to be calling you weekly to stay up in touch with you. And you could somewhat call that an appointment, but more so to me, I'm even actually thinking for me with a seller, I want to get out in front of them again in a face-to-face appointment within 3 to 4 weeks. So I want to schedule that. Now, if everything works the way it should, we probably won't have that appointment, but I want to schedule it. And especially in our current market, which by the way, I'm going to side note in a second. I'll come back to, remind me to come back about the market for a minute, because I want to tell you something I observed yesterday that's fascinating. But if I do it right, I probably am not going to need that appointment to come back in 3 to 4 weeks. Why? Yeah, hopefully the property's sold. But I want to schedule the appointment as if it's not. For what reason?
Tethered.
That's right. I want to keep them tethered. And what am I going to tell the client the purpose of that is?
To sit down and reevaluate to see where we are.
That's right.
What we need to do changes.
Yep. So, and here's how I usually tell it to them. Here's what I want to do. I want to sit down with you every 3 to 4 weeks that we'll have the property on the market, and what we're going to talk about is what has gone on, and then once we've talked about what has happened, we'll talk about what the future looks like. And for me, that's one of 3 things. Either we're going to leave the price where it's at, we're going to reduce the price, or we're just going to take the home off the market. But I want you as the seller to make that decision every 3 to 4 weeks. We're reducing the price, we're leaving it the same, or we're taking it off the market altogether. And I don't care which one we do, but every 3 to 4 weeks I want to do that. If you will do that, you're going to get more price reductions, and you're going to be less likely to have sellers that are frustrated with you as their agent, because you're going to be sitting down with them doing that. All right? So that's what makes somebody a client. And think of this as more of how we're going to manage our client. We manage the clients through appointments. Okay. Now, the next group we're going to talk about is what we would call prospects. The other term you could use for a prospect would be a lead, but we're going to call them prospects. All right? Now, so we just talked about this is what makes someone a client. This next group here, under the prospects, is going to be what makes someone a prospect is they are deficient or missing one of these 4 things. So when you have somebody, so let me give you an example. Let's say you have somebody that's committed. Well, in fact, let's use what Gabby brought up. You've got somebody who's committed to working exclusively with you. They have clear and present needs that can be met, but they're just not ready to do it now. So using the example, you said how far out? 90 months?
Like, no, like March and then some in June and.
Okay, so let's use a June or something like that. Is that a now person? No, because they're saying it doesn't matter. If and part of how you find out is, well, what if I found a property that worked exactly for you? Would you want to do it before June? And if they say no, and here's the reason why, then you're stuck with June. That now makes them a not now buyer. That make sense? So as a result, so think of it as these ones we're trying to get to this level. So, or no, one way of saying it, we're trying to get these people to become clients. But they're not yet because they're missing one of these. It could be that they have clear and present needs that can be met. They're ready to go now. They just are not sure if you're the person that they're going to use yet. That would make them now a prospect, not a client. You follow me? Now, let me ask you this. So we're going to talk more about what makes somebody a prospect is they're working towards these 3 things, but they're not there yet. And let's say, though, that you had somebody that is committed to working exclusively with you. They have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're prepared to do it now, but you don't have an appointment with them. Because remember this one was more about the management of our client. So how would we want to manage prospects? Because maybe they're deficient in this. You don't have an appointment with them. So how should we manage a prospect And it can't be an appointment because if it was, that's what they would now be a client instead. So how would we manage them?
We could communicate through them through text messaging, emails.
Good. How often?
As often as it takes to get them to become tethered.
Okay, good. I like that. But at a minimum,
Monthly? Or do you have to?
well, so let me ask. So let me hang on. Let me re-ask the question. You have somebody who may or may not be committed to working exclusively with you, but they have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're ready to do it now. Are you going to wait a month to call them?
No.
So what's the minimum you should be talking to them?
Twice a week.
Yeah, I would say once a week minimum. So minimum. So twice a week probably is better, but minimum. So I'm going to put up here minimum of 1 time per week contact. And the idea of that is you're going to have that once a week contact with them until one of 2 things happen. One of 3 things happen. They either become a client, which is what we're trying to get to have happen, right? The reason we're making this weekly contact is to get them to become committed working exclusively with you, find out their clear and present needs that can be met, and are they ready to do it now, and to set an appointment. Once I can do that, boom, now they're a client. But until then, I'm going to have contact with them minimum once a week until they do that, or I'm going to do it until I drop them, till I just flat out get rid of them. So I'm going to have contact once a week. If I can see they're not going to become this, for whatever reason, I may end up dropping them. The third option that I would do is what we're going to call suspects, which really is just a fancy way that we're going to say for our SOI. Okay? Now, with this, what we're going to do now, the rest of this class, we're going to talk about there's 4 things here that make somebody a suspect or that you would want to use to classify then in your sphere of influence. So for the rest of this class, what we are going to talk about is these 4 things. Now, here's what I will tell you. And I'm going to show you, in fact, I'm going to bring the screen down real quick here. While that's coming down, I'm going to show you a video here in a second. The management of your sphere of influence is a math problem. And so what I'm going to show you is this. In terms of, in fact, Chris, you've been to this class, right? Has anybody else been through before? Okay, that's fine. But one of the things which I'm grateful that Chris is here. Chris has been before. One of the things that I am going to recommend to you, and I recommend this every class, but very rarely do people take me up on it, but Chris did. And that is, you should come. So I'm going to teach this probably every 3 months-ish. I would recommend you come to this class every time I teach it until it sinks in enough that you do it. Because here's what I would be willing to bet. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is going to be.
Right.
Okay. Because I'm going to give you guys 4 protocols that I will guarantee you. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I teach you guys that I think, and I don't know if you guys do, but it's good stuff. But there's only a couple of the things that I would stand behind, like I will what I'm going to share with you on these 4 things. I mean, if you will do it, it is 100% guaranteed to work. And part of, hopefully, Chris, you're going to help me start a chain reaction here, because what I'm telling you is I gave to Chris before these 4 protocols, and I've told him the same thing I'm going to tell you guys over and over and over and over again today. If you will just do it, it is 100% guaranteed to work, but most of you are not going to do it, which is why I say keep coming till the class until you start doing it, because it is guaranteed to work. And so this is where I was saying I don't know the answer, but are you doing the 4 things?
I don't even remember them.
Okay, good. So there you go. Okay, thank you. Now you know why I'm saying, honestly, to some extent, it frustrates me a little bit that, because seriously, when I teach this, in my opinion, I guess what I'm saying is if you knew what I knew about this room would be full every single time that I teach this class of people going, okay, I obviously missed it the first time because I'm not doing it. See, here's what I would say to you. I heard this recently. You know that you really understand something when you can teach it to someone else so that they understand. See, until you can stand up and teach this, if I were you, in fact, actually, let me back up for a minute. The whole reason, honestly, that I am doing this now, teaching, is tied to exactly that. I didn't think of it in terms of that you don't really understand something until you can teach somebody else so that they understand it. But at one point, when I was selling full time, I had left the company that I was with when I first learned all of this, went to a different company, and I quit doing all of it, everything. And I went back to the other company, and then I said, okay, I need to get involved in teaching this so that I get it so cemented in here that I understand it, that I won't ever forget it and lose it again. Well, that led me to start teaching, and then I found out, hey, I actually like this better. And so I just kept teaching. So I'm teaching until it's not fun anymore. When it's not fun anymore is the day that I'll be like, okay, I'm going back and selling houses again. But guess what I'm going to do? 100%, no question. I could go anywhere in any market in the U.S. You could plug in and do these 4 things that I'm going to show you, and it is 100% guaranteed to work. You just got to do it. And it's not difficult. But the problem is you're going to sit here and hear it and get all excited about it. Do you remember being excited about it, though, last time?
I'm sure I must have been.
You know, so he doesn't even remember that. But at least you remembered to come back. So that's the good news. But here's the thing I'm telling you. If you will do it, it is 100% guaranteed to work. And the reason for that is because it's a math problem. Now, let me show you what I mean. So let me get the screen turned on here. I'm going to show you a video here. That it's an old one, which most of you probably will not remember, but I mean, I don't even remember it when it was real, but I at least know enough about it. This was a sitcom that was on TV, I don't even know what years, but it was when TV was still black and white, so it tells you that's how long ago it was, of Ma and Pa Kettle. Who knows who Ma and Pa Kettle are? Yeah, so like 3 of us, okay. So you're going to watch this 2-minute clip here about Ma and Pa Kettle, and then we're going to, the reason I'm showing it to you is it's relevant to when we talk about these 4 things for the sake. So let me just get this going here for you.
I figure 75% to you, Mom, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Gina, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Ma. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. We're going to run this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, if the 5 won't go to 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times. You see?
You're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm pretty good on this. Now, 5 into 25. 5 won't go into 2.
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we're going down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. So you want 5 into 25, 14.
No, let me prove it to you. I'll multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 and 5 is 25.
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 20 is 5. That's it.
You're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20,
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are.
That's funny.
All right.
That's genius.
Okay, so now the reason I show you that is because at one point here, you're going to think I'm doing Ma and Pa Kettle math, but I'm really not, okay? But I want to still keep hammering on this for a minute. The problem that most people have, and in fact, what you will typically hear some trainers say, some people say, is that if you should be able to get a 10 to 15% return off of your sphere of influence, which basically would mean what? If let's just say a 10% return. If you had 100 people, which is what we are talking about this quarter for the company, is let's get 100 people into some type of a CRM, which I would personally recommend Zap for, but that doesn't matter, whatever you want to use. If you were going to get a 10% return, how many deals should you do off those 10 people? I mean, excuse me, I just gave you the answer. Off those 100 people, it'd be 10, right? So, but here's the thing, that's not bad. The challenge with it is, and I'll show you what the challenge with it and why most people don't do it and don't get the return is you will hear some people talk about that have been in the business for a while that they have 1,000 or 2,000 or 4,000 people in a database. Well, if you had 4,000 people in a database and you're going to do 10% transactions off 4,000 people, how many would that be? Yeah. Now, how realistic is that?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably. I like the answer of probably not. In fact, what I would tell you is most of the time people that I meet that have 4,000 people in a database are not even doing 10 transactions out of their database. Now, I'm going to show you why that is and how if you will do it and manage it with these, I'm going to give you 4 criteria that is 100% guaranteed to work because it's a math problem. Now, it's not a mom and pa kettle math problem, although at one point you might think it is, but I'll show you, as soon as I show you that it's not, you'll get it, okay? So we're going to talk about, though, for the sake of that, we're going to talk about 2 types of systems. We're going to talk about an open system and a closed system. So in order for you to understand how to make this SOI work and to work like a math problem, we've got to talk math for a minute. Now, if you don't like math, which I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I hated math, that was the worst part of the real estate school. Don't worry, it's not that hard. But we're going to talk about in math, there are 2 types of systems. There's an open system and then there's a closed system. Now, this, I've got here a dice. This dice is an open system, meaning, if I said to you, pick a number between 1 and 6. One time I said pick a number, and somebody said 7. Okay, pick a number between 1 and 6. So somebody give me a number.
5.
Okay, 5. What are the odds that when I roll this, I'm going to get a 5?
1 in 6.
The odds are 1 out of 6, right? Now, so the reason we're going to have a discussion about math for a minute and talk about open systems versus closed systems is, for whatever reason, when we learned about odds in school, most of us learned about the odds in a way that is not necessarily, meaning, well, let me rephrase that. You learned it the right way, but your understanding of it is not there. Meaning, the way you think odds work is not really the way that they work. When you learned about it and you thought, oh yeah, I get it, it's 1 out of 6, like you thought you understood it, but I'm going to show you that you probably really didn't understand it, and then I'm going to help you understand it, because once you understand it, then we can apply a different thing to it that will make this work. It's because the management of a sphere of influence here is a math problem, but the problem that most people have with it is they approach it as an open system. Meaning, when I say that somebody's got 4,000 people in a database, and most people would tell you should be able to get a return of 10 to 15% out of that database, and then people don't get that, because like I said, somebody with 4,000 people should be doing 400 transactions a year, yet they don't. So why do they not? It's because they don't really understand this whole odds thing when they're saying you should get 10 to 15. All right. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. So before we get into that, I want to first help you understand what an open system looks like. So if I had a map here, if I just took a map and did a pretty large circle on it like that. Now, it was going to have, in order for this to work, the sample size has got to be pretty big in here. Meaning, it's going to have to probably be the size of Salt Lake County, basically, for this to work. And maybe not quite that big, but probably at least half of it, okay? in order for the numbers to work. Because part of the problem, if you just took a sample of 10 houses and I said to you, what are the chances that people in those 10 houses are going to move? It might be like 0, depending on where it's at, right? But it also could be 100% chance if there's a freeway going through there, where it is, whatever. But if I just took a pretty big sampling, and let's just say Salt Lake County, and I'm not expecting you to know, but I'm curious at what your thoughts are. What are the chances that any one person is going to be moving? What are the odds that they're going to move? In terms of a percentage, what would you guess?
50%.
How much?
50%.
50%. So that in the next, sorry, I should have classified it. In the next year. So do you think that 50% of the people in Salt Lake County are going to move in the next year?
No.
No. So what do you think it is? Sorry, I should have clarified. Within a year.
25%.
5 to 10%.
10.
Okay, 5, 10, 20. What did you say, Ashley? 5. Okay. So now let me tell you where I've got this from. In researching this, I went to the Census Bureau because I was like, they're going to have kind of the best indication of how often people move. What I found actually was that 12% of the population will move every year. So 12% of the, now again, if we just picked one little neighborhood, you're probably not going to get it. But when you take a large sampling, 100,000 people or whatever, and maybe even 100,000 isn't quite enough, but let's just say 100,000. That there's a 12% chance that those people are going to be moving during the next year. Well, that also, when I went to that on the Census Bureau, though, that includes renters. Well, for the sake of what we're doing, I don't necessarily want to worry about renters. So if you remove renters out of this, then the percentage of people that are going to buy and sell real estate is 7%. So let me show you what I mean. If we had 100 of those people, which again, you're going to probably need 100,000 for this really to work. But let's just to keep the math easy. If there were 100 people and 7% of them are going to do something in the next year, how many transactions would that be in the next year?
7.
See this is where I'm going to do mom and pop kettle math, because no, the answer is 14. That's why I love that video, because it's exactly the same number. See, the answer is always 14. Now, why is it 14 though instead of transactions instead of 7?
Buy and sell.
That's right, because every time a house changes hands, there's a buy side and a sell side. So that's the reason. So it's kind of, they get double counted is kind of really what it is. So that's as difficult as our math is going to get today, okay, guys? Like, that's it. But 7% of the 100 equates to 14 transactions, okay? So there's 14. Now, you may or may not have heard something like this. And if you haven't, you will at some point. But you will hear people say, for you as agents, if you were to go and talk to 100 people, you should be able to get 10 leads out of those 100 people, and of those 10 leads should turn into 1 transaction. Okay? Has anybody heard that yet in the business? Okay, I see a few heads shaking yes. The rest of you, at some point, you're going to hear that. I'm going to actually show you today what the flaw is in it. Meaning, yes, you can make these numbers come out like this, just the same as what I said to you with this, of the chances of me rolling a 5, or the odds, are 1 out of 6. But I'm going to show you what the problem with that is in just a second. Because if that was really true, it would then I would be all on board for it. But the problem with this is, in fact, let me just show you what the problem with this is. Because what they're saying when they say this, by the way, where this came from, this 110-1, is essentially came out of this. 7% of the population's in the process of moving. So if you talk to 100 people, 14 transactions are going to come out of that, which they just rounded it down to 10 because it looks better to go 110-1 than 114, whatever. But this is where it came from, is out of 100 people, if 7% are going to be doing something, out of 100 people, 14 transactions will be there, and you should be able to capture basically 1 of them. They just changed the numbers to be 110-1 because that looks better than 114-1. That's where it came from, which sounds good. Meaning, like, if you really got on the phone and talked to 100 people and you got 10 leads and it turned into a transaction, and let's just say you talk to 50 people a day, like you should be able to do 2.5 transactions a week, and let's just say 2 transactions a week, and you times that by 50 weeks is going to be 100. Hey, don't be you're not the principal. Don't come take people out of my class, Ruby.
She
No.
didn't hear.
All right, there we go.
Or she's ignoring it.
Hang on, I just have to do something fun. You guys just get cost her $1 million by you being out here instead of in here.
I know, this is really important.
More than $1 million?
No.
All right, I just had to give Ruby a hard time. Okay, but are you following me though? Like, how many contacts per day are you making?
40-ish.
Okay.
40-ish.
Okay, but let's just round it up to 50 that he's doing, which I know you're not. But are you doing 2.5 transactions a week?
No.
You're not selling 2.5 homes every week?
Sorry, Russ.
Well, so wait. So what's the problem? Because this is what people are going to tell you: is if you talk to 100 people, you should get 10 leads, and of those 10 leads, they should turn into a transaction. But you're not doing it. So why? Like, I'm going to show you why in a second. But go
There's
ahead.
3 different categories they could fall in that 100.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah, I like your thinking on that. That's true. But the idea is they all should end up over here, shouldn't they?
They should.
So, but can you see the problem though? Because Chris is doing 40 contacts a day. So let's just leave it at the 40. He should essentially be doing 2 transactions a week, according to this. Now, this is what we would call an open system. Let me show you what the problem with an open system is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So I'm going to tell her to stay out there for a minute. Okay. Now watch this. If this is true, let's just do the 10 to 1. That the odds are 10 to 1 basically, because that's what it is. 10 to 1 here and then 10 to 1 here. If the odds are 10 to 1, and I come here and she tells me no, then I just checked one of them off, right? So now I come here and get told no. Right, let me back up. What does that mean in this? If the odds are 10 to 1, what does it mean? I just need
If
you-
you've got 2 no's, then obviously the odds should go up.
Yeah, okay, good. That's how we learned it, right? So watch. Now, let me show you what the problem is. No, 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 no. So I've gotten 8 no's. No. There's 9 no's.
Yes.
What's going to happen when I get here?
Yes.
She should be a yes.
Right? She should be a yes, right? Now, that's the problem. We just landed on what the problem with, what you learned about odds and how they work, to some extent, that is the problem. Is because that's what our belief is that if this says the odds are 1 out of 10 or a 9 to 1, and I get no, 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 9 no's, this one should be a yes. But is that reality of what happens?
No.
So let me show you what it really means. Because when you see something that says this, the odds are 9 to 1, let me show you what that really means. Because here's what it really means, and then I'm going to show you with the dice. What are the odds that I'm going to get a yes here?
50%.
Or, well, no, let me go back. What are the odds that I'm going to get a no? Let me say it that way. 9 to 1. Okay, so I just leave her and I come now here. What are the odds?
Still 90%.
9 to 1.
Mhm.
What are the odds?
9 to 1.
What are the odds? 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 Now I've gotten told no 9 times. What are the odds?
Still
Still
not.
9 to 1.
See, that's the problem. The reason Chris can be doing 40 contacts a day and not be doing 2 because according to this, you should be doing 2 transactions a week. But he's not. And this is where we get frustrated, because we would look at it and go, what I'm doing, I'm following this, and this is what it said. Go ahead.
It's because when you're under the assumption that when one person falls out, your chance increases, but it resets.
That's right.
Each
That's,
person.
thank you. That's exactly right. See, what the problem is, whenever you hear something like this, or that the odds are 9 to 1, in our minds we tend to go, okay, well, great, I just got to do 9, and then I'll get to number 10. Now, here's the other challenge. what would most people say? So let's say I'm Chris. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I was told this. I'm doing 40 contacts a day. And I've been doing, how long have you been doing 40 contacts a day?
A couple months now.
Okay, so he's been doing it for a few months. Let's say I'm doing it though. I'm doing it and I've had no transactions. I'm frustrated now and I go to my manager. So you guys are all my manager, okay? And I go to you and I say, okay, like I promise I'm doing my 40 contacts every day. Like I understand this, it should be happening. I should be doing all these transactions and it's not happening. What do you think most managers would tell you to do?
Make more calls.
That's right. Because why?
It's on an average. It's going to be over time.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Now, so let me explain something to you, because in math there is another principle that makes this work, that makes this whole 10-to-1 thing work, and that is called regression toward. You don't need to know this. So this is totally a side note, but it's called regression towards the mean, which basically says. So when a manager says to you, "Well, you just need to do more," what they're saying is they're saying to you, regression towards the mean will eventually catch up with you, so just keep doing more and eventually you'll get there. Well, the problem with that is that doesn't really fix the problem, doing more. Because if the odds are 9-to-1 and I do more, what happens?
Yeah, it goes back to the same.
You what?
It goes back to the same thing, 9-to-1.
Yeah, it's still it doesn't get any better.
The problem with this is your pool. How many people are you polling to get that number? Let's say she got 4 contacts that week, then that means his chances just went down.
Why?
Because she's part of the pool that you've pulled to come up with your 7%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got you. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Averaging.
Yeah. So, but this is the problem, is typically when somebody says, well, you just need to go do more, doing more at what doesn't work, doesn't work. See, ultimately when you say work smarter, what part of what it means is I got to get better at what I'm doing in order to get the results. Not that I got to do more, because doing more, the odds are still 9-to-1.
Just more frustrating.
That's right. Now, here's the problem. That's an open system. We're going to talk about 2 types of systems. I'm going to explain to you a closed system in just a minute. Go ahead, Dib. Did you have a comment? No, somebody had a hand up. Who was it? No? All right. Let me show you this then. All right, let me show you on the dice. Now, let me show you what happens is this. So I need one of you to keep track of the number of times that I roll the dice. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to see how many times I have to roll it to get a 5. Ready? Okay, there's 1. This is where I get my exercise for the day. Okay, boom, do. How many times do we have to roll it to get a 5? Twice. Okay, so now let's reset and we're going to start again. And let's see how long it takes to get a 5. So 4 times I've rolled it. 5 times. Okay, what should happen?
You should get a 5.
I'm going to get a 5 right now. What happened? So now I'm at 6. 7. So it took 7 times to get a 5. What would happen if we kept doing this? If I just keep doing it, is it going to come out? So let's just do it again and see what happens. How many times? So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're getting kind of lucky, but is it possible that I could roll it 20 times and not get the 5?
Yeah.
It's also possible I could roll it 20 times and get a 5 every single time. Not likely. But notice, that's an open system. We don't really know. The odds do not get better. The odds of me getting a 5 were 1 out of 6, 5-to-1 against me every single time. Make sense? Okay, that's an open system. Now let's talk about a closed system. Because the first protocol, now I didn't say this yet, but when I talk about these things up here, think of them as being protocols. What's a protocol?
Rules you follow.
Yeah, so think of it as a required condition. So the reason I'm not calling it 4 rules is because rules were made to be broken. Protocols were like, no, those are like, you have to do it. Now remember, I said to you, if you will do these 4 things that I'm going to give you, it is guaranteed to work. And I will tell you, it is guaranteed to produce over a 6-digit income for you. And we're going to do the math on it, and I'll show you what it can look like for real. And all you have to do is these 4 things, and they're not hard. So let me give you the first one. The very first one is it has to be a closed system. So we just talked about open systems. The first protocol is this has to be a closed system. Now let me show you what a closed system looks like. It's bad that I'm out of breath already from those squats that I was just doing, because now I'm going to do a few more. All right. So now what we're going to do is the same thing. Now I'm going to do the same. We're going to play the same game. I'm going to see how many times I have to roll it to get a 5. But this time we're going to do it as a closed system versus an open system. See, this is an open system. What we're going to do now is a closed system. So here's the good news. Because this is my game, I get to choose the rules of the game. Meaning, you can't go to Vegas and do this. If you could, I would not be here teaching you. Like, I like teaching, but I would like being there doing this better if I could do it. But you can't do it, so don't get your hopes up, okay? But here's the rules of the game. I'm going to roll, and every time I don't get a 5, I'm going to put a sticker on that number that was not a 5. And then when I roll the next time, if the sticker shows up, it doesn't count, I get a free throw. It doesn't, so like if we were in Vegas, I would be like saying I didn't lose, I get to roll again. Mm-hmm. Make sense? Now watch what happens this time. Let's see how many times I have to roll it to get a 5. So there's a 6. So I'm going to take this sticker, put it on there. So now just to make sure, so whoever's keeping tick marks of how many times it takes us to roll, if this comes up, doesn't count as a roll, I get a free throw. Okay. So I've rolled it once. Okay, so now there's a 1. So now I'm going to put a sticker on it. So now that one is a free throw. So I've rolled twice. So free throw, doesn't count. So I've still only rolled twice. Okay, there's a 2. So now I've got another sticker on that one. So I've rolled 3 times, right? Mm-hmm. Free throw. Still only rolled 3 times. Free throw. So I've still only rolled 3 times. Boom. Okay, so how many times do I have to roll it to get a 5? 4. Right? Because I rolled 3 that didn't. Okay, so I've 4 times. So now let's do it again. Let's see what happens. Okay. So there's 1 roll. I'm going to put a sticker on it. Free throw. So I've only rolled once. Only rolled once. Okay, there's a 4. So now I've rolled twice. Now what's going to happen?
You're going to go until you roll a 5.
It's a 100% chance.
I'm guaranteed I'm going to get a 5 on this roll. Because that one doesn't count. So I get to go again. So how many times am I going to have to roll it to get the 5?
They count? Or
They count. Yeah, no, these ones are free throws. They don't count.
One roll.
No, I know the total how many times.
Twice.
You've already rolled twice.
So 3 times. It took me 3. Okay, now what's going to happen? Which I'm not going to do it again. But what's going to happen now?
And I rolled just once.
Yeah, it's either a free throw or I get a 5. Mm-hmm. How would you like to do real estate that way? You either get a free throw or you get a deal.
That'd be great.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to do it. As soon as I catch my breath from my squats. All right. So let me erase this. So the first thing that has to happen because remember I told you it's guaranteed to work? 100% guaranteed because it's a math problem and it's a closed system. Okay. Now, On this being a closed system, that's the first protocol. Remember, the protocols are required conditions. That's the first one, is it has to be a closed system. Now, the number that I'm going to tell you to do it as, so even though we're talking about 100 for this, for the first 3 months of this year, which maybe that's your goal right there, but I want you to, for this system, get to the 100, but then after that, get another 100, because the number I want you to have is 200. Okay? So the real protocol is that it is a closed system, and said another way, we could put it as fixed in size. That's what makes it a closed system, is it has to be fixed in size. Okay? So that's probably the better way of saying it even than just closed system, is the number one thing that has to happen for this to work. Now remember, I told you it's guaranteed to work, but you got to follow these protocols. And the first one is, it has to be fixed in size. The number that I'm going to tell you guys to use is 200, which really is just making it a closed system by us doing it fixed in size. The reason that I'm telling you that it has to be 200 is you'll see here in just a little bit as we get into the second and third protocol. But the reason that it has to be, that I want it to be 200 is similar to what I was saying when I drew the circle up here. If you just said, well, I want my fixed in size number, because that's really what makes it a closed system, is it's fixed in size. If you said, well, I only want mine to be 20, it's probably not going to really work, because it's got to be big enough to be able to generate some things, but it can't be so overwhelming that you're not going to do the next few protocols. And what you're going to see here in a second is the reason that people with 4,000 people don't get a good return on it is because you cannot do effectively what I'm going to give you as number 2 on this. You can't effectively do it with 4,000 people. It's too big. But you're going to see you can effectively do what I'm going to show you with 200 people. And as I show this to you, as we get into it, you're going to go, holy cow, this totally makes sense. I get it. And then you're not going to do it. So, which is why I'm saying, thanks for coming back, Chris, because we got a better chance. There is a better chance that he's going to do it than you guys are. Most of you, and I'm somewhat saying this, like I'm not saying it to discourage you, I'm doing it to challenge you. Most of you are going to leave this class, and 3 months from now, you'll be in the position Chris was, which was, I don't even really remember what they are. And I'm not faulting him for that. That's just what happens. So come back. I'm going to keep pounding that. But there's a better chance you're going to do it. I'm still not sure, though. I'm just kidding.
Can't be sure, Russ.
I know, I'm just kidding. So, okay, so you need to have it be 200 people. So let me just ask you real quick. If it's got to be 200 people, and one of these 200 people goes and gets their real estate license, what does that mean I have to do?
Replace them.
That's right. So let me say it a different way. You can't have 201 and you can't have 199. Now, you can build it up to 200, but once you hit 200, you can't have 201. And once it hits 200, you can't have 199 either. So think of it that way. It's okay during the building phase to have less than 200 while you're building, but you're building it as fast as you can to 200. Once it hits 200, now you have to stay there. You can't have 199, you can't have 201. So if you lose one, you got to replace it. If you get it one, you got to get rid of one. Make sense? It's got to be fixed in size. Okay? You sure you get it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, it's got to be fixed in size. Okay. Now, the next protocol to that is, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Let me just make sure. I'm not. Oh, yep, I was thinking. Glad I checked. All right. Think of it this way. This is what the process is going to look like. So I just mentioned that you're going to have a ramp up period for it to take place, meaning you're going to build it up to the 200. What it's going to look like, though, is something like this. Now, this is the part of the other reason that people will end up not doing it, is because of what I'm going to show you right now. So think of it as this dotted line here is when it will be what I like to refer to as mature. Is it meaning I said to you, if you will do what I'm going to show you, that it is a guarantee that you're going to have over a 6-digit income? this is when I can say that I can guarantee it, is once it hits that spot. Now, for every one of you, it is going to vary of when you're going to hit that spot, but it's typically, on average, going to be somewhere around 6 to 9 months that it's going to take you to build it to this. Okay? Doesn't have to take that long, but that's typically, for most people, that's what it's going to do. Now, part of the reason that people don't do it, and I'm not, please don't think I was, like, I hope it's not coming across negative when I'm like, you're not going to go do this. I'm saying that not because I'm trying to be negative, I'm saying it trying to challenge you. And part of it, I guess, is because for me, if I was sitting in a class and you said to me, I'm going to teach you a way that is guaranteed to work, but you're not going to do it, the way my mind works is I'd be like, oh yeah, you want to bet? Like, I'll show you. So that's what I'm trying to get from you guys, okay? Is a little bit of that challenge. But let me tell you part of why people don't do it. And it is tied to this right here. So if this right here spot is going to be 6 to 9 months, what happens the first 3 to 5 months?
Nothing.
Does anybody know how bamboo grows? Do you remember this? Don't say it then. Don't ruin it. What rest of you? How does bamboo grow? Fast or slow?
Fast.
Okay, so I've heard slow and fast. So explain. That is the answer, actually. It is really slow and then really fast. So what's the really slow part? How long does that last? Do you know? Okay. If you were to plant bamboo, it takes 4 years before you're going to see anything happen, and up to 5 years. Now, does that meaning if you planted it and you for 4 years went out and you would be like, it's not working. It's not working. But then all of a sudden when it does pop through, now's when it goes really fast. It grows like 90 feet in 3 weeks or something. I don't know the exact numbers, but it goes really fast. But it took 4 or 5 years before that happened. Now, what was going on during the 4 or 5 years? Do you know?
Foundation, building the root system.
That's right. It has to put its root system in place first so that it can shoot up so fast. That is what happens with this. But what similar to if you went out and planted a tree and for 5 years nothing happened, you would eventually get frustrated and quit watering the tree, right? Probably unless you knew. If you knew, hey, you can get this, but it's going to take you 5 years of watering it and doing all that kind of stuff. Now the good news is I'm turning it to months, not years. So that's the good news. But guess what's happening right here?
Learning.
Well, what's happening is you're putting the root system in place. Things are happening under the surface that you're not aware of. But similar to that seed, if you quit watering it and pulling the weeds and all that kind of stuff, what's going to happen to if you were planting a tree? It's going to die. Same thing happens here. If you don't keep doing what we're going to talk about here, it won't work. But you got to keep in mind that I'm going to have to be patient. Give it a little bit of time to get its root system in place, because when it does, notice what happens when it goes. It goes fast. And I have been training, so let me back up. I have been using this. I used this in my business I learned it in, what year was it? I want to say it was 1998 I learned it. I used it until I started training in 2004 is when I started training this stuff. So I'm coming up on now 16 years of me training this to people. Here's what I will tell you. Very few people will leave this class and do it, and I'm not saying you guys, just in general. My experience is very few will do it, but the ones who do it are hugely successful because they do it. And it will work. I have watched it happen over and over and over again, and I'm telling you, this part here happens every single time when you do. If you'll put in the first little bit of effort, which is going to be 3 to 5 months, depending on you, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But if you will just be patient and just go, I'm just going to keep doing it, even though it seems like it's not working. Just keep doing it. All of a sudden, just like that bamboo, it's going to shoot through and it's going to go up like crazy. Go ahead.
Are you talking about SOI?
What's that?
Is that what you're talking about, the
Uh-huh.
SOI, like contacting your SOI?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
It
exactly.
has to do with like the cold calling or anything, just SOI.
SOI. Although you may use some cold calling to add to, because part of what you've got to do is you got to be adding to until you get to the 200. And if you now could drop down to 199, you got to go have some way of. So it is connected, but I'm talking about specifically the SOI. Are you leaving?
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta take off, so I'm gonna give you one last jab at me before I leave halfway through class.
Anything specific you want?
I don't know.
No,
But
thanks for being
yeah,
here.
and I'll be to the next one too.
Okay.
Unless but I've still not got the 4 things, so I guess I'm gonna have to come back, right?
You have to keep coming back. All right, see you. All right. Making sense so far. Any questions so far? All right. So, like this part, I know I'm probably spending a ton of time on, but I'm telling you, if you will give it the time and to be patient in it and just keep doing these 4 things, it is going to work. And the first protocol is what?
Build your SOI.
Fixed in size. It's got to be fixed in size or a closed system, and you got to have 200 people, okay? All right. Next. So the second thing with this, hang on. One other thing I want to add to on this. So think of it this way. So from what Gabby actually just brought up, think of it this way, Gabby. Part of what you're going to do, let me go back to a different belt for a second on this. Part of what you're going to do is you've got to be doing some of this other prospecting to kind of fill the gap, so that you can start producing here rather than saying I got to wait the 3 to 5 months. Meaning, so yes, we want to be door knocking. Like this is the part from the lead generation class where I say pick 2 or 3 things in addition to, 1 or 2 things in addition to SOI. This is the 1 or 2 other things that you're going to be doing while you're building the SOI. But what you're going to do then is as you're prospecting and you're getting leads from that, you want to take those leads and be dropping them over here into this. That's how you're getting to the 200. Is through your just prospecting, whatever you do, whatever prospecting you're doing, you're taking those leads and dumping them into this to create the 200 along the way. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, let me come back to this for a second. We talked over here about with a client, you need to tether them with appointments. This leads or prospects we're going to tether through contact minimum of once a week. How would you think we should stay in touch with this group of people? What would be a good thing to do?
Quarterly, send them a newsletter.
I think you need to do multiple things different ways, like drip
Love it.
campaign.
Good. I like your thinking. Here's what I would say on this one. On this group, what we want to do is you need to have contact with them. Now remember, so before I give you the answer, remember on this, when we're prospecting, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out during our prospecting, and the purpose of when you get a lead that you call them once a week, is you're trying to figure out, are they going to become a client? Am I going to drop them, or should I just put them in my SOI? Now, so here's what I would say. Somebody who is June, so you going back to Gabby's thing, if you got somebody who's going to do something in June, like that person, you probably don't need to call them once a week. Like once a week, so if somebody's, they'd be like, Gabby, I already told you we're not doing it till June. If you called every week, she's gonna be like, I already told you we're not doing it till June. Like, you don't need to call me this much. So how often do you think she should call that person?
Maybe like once a month.
That's right. So on this, in order for this to work, and part of getting the root system in place over here that I was talking about is through this contact 1 time per month, personal. So there's going to be 2 subcategories to this. So 1 time per month, personal contact. 1 time per month through mail or email. So that's 2 things, once a month. One being a mail or an email, the other one being some form of personal contact with them. Okay? Now, go ahead.
And does Zap allow you to like put notes in there?
Yes.
So you'd be able to track where you are and your conversation, so to say. or your
If I were you guys, again, I don't care what system you use. You're going to notice up here, I don't have a certain system in place, but I would say if it were me, if I were you, I would use Zap. And I'll show you why here in just a little bit too. But one of the reasons is exactly that, Brent. I can keep track of my notes and I can schedule my next call for the person in the system. Okay. Let me come back to this real quick because there was one other thing I wanted to say on this 200. Once you get to this point here, you can change this number to anything you want. The reason I train it as 200 is twofold. One is it's a big enough number to get it up and running, but once you get it up and running, you can change this to any number you want it to be. Meaning, well, let me tell it to you this way. Here's how I'd say it. The least I've seen anybody have in here and have it still be effective for them to generate the income is 75. Now, do not leave here, though, hearing that Russ said I only need 75. You need 200 to begin with. You can change it to 75 if you want to once you get to here. The most I've seen one individual person do that still works is 300. So same thing again. Don't leave here and do 300. Do 200. Get 200 working. And then after that, if you want to change it to, for me personally, my number that I went with, that I stayed with, so I got it working at 200. As soon as it was working, I switched it to 150. Now, here's how you're going to decide what you want the number to be. But again, don't make the decision until you hit to this point. So don't adjust it to less than 200. Again, if you start it with less than 200, I can't give you the same guarantee that I'm giving you. You got to follow the protocols. But if you follow it, it'll work. Now, here's how you're going to decide. Notice that right here you have, now let me go back to the 4,000. Somebody who has 4,000 people in a database, if you had to contact them personally once a month, how likely are you to do that with 4,000 people every month?
They're talking about 8,000 contacts.
Yeah, but forget this part of it. I'm just talking about the 4,000 contacts a month just to talk to them. You're never going to do it. And if you did, it's going to be very ineffective. So how you're going to decide what you want this number to be once it matures, what you're going to do then is with that, you're going to decide how many people per day do I want to be contacting, times that by the number of days, 30 days in a month, let's assume, or actually do 20 probably, because that's how many days you're going to probably make calls. So if we use 20 days in a month, and I got to talk to 200 people, how many a day do I got to talk to from this group? Is that overwhelming? Shouldn't be.
But don't you still have to call the client, prospect, and the clients?
Good question. Until it's working, yes. Once this is working for me, though, I don't necessarily need to, because once it's working, my business should be coming from this. So the only reason I would have to then go and do this stuff over, see, you'll notice when I drew this one, it drops off over here. And notice, it really drops off once it crosses, once these two connect, once they merge, you can now drop that. Now, you'll just decide. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and go, oh, they merged. Like, you'll just figure out when you're like, okay, I'm getting my business where I want it to be. I don't need to. The only time then I would come back to this would be if I decided I wanted to, hey, I want to increase my business. I'm going to go to 300 instead of 200 or 250 versus that. Then I'm going to go do some other things. But I'm telling you, let me give you probably the person who I think is the best example is a gal by the name of Tonya Messina. Anybody know or heard of Tonya? The reason I ask that every time is I've had twice that I brought that up and somebody said, yeah.
She's a California girl?
No, she's here.
Okay.
But they raised their hand and said, yeah, I know her. They were in her group and then they went and got their license. Which, guess what that meant for her? She would all of a sudden went to 199 or 198 with two people and then had to go. So that's the reason I asked. But with her number was 97 people. Once she got it working, she put it at 97 people. And I haven't looked recently to see how much business she's doing. But for many, many years, with 97 people, she was doing $300,000 a year, working nothing but her sphere of influence. Wow. With 97 people. And the other side of it is for the most part, she was working 20 hours a week. She hired her sister to be her assistant who worked the other 20. So it was a 40-hour week thing, but her sister was working the other 20 because she had young kids and was being a stay-at-home mom.
So she's working with less people, but what she's doing to get something like that.
Yep.
So what she's doing?
So
What's-
yeah,
what's the
it's-
system?
it's
No, that's what I'm showing you. I'm showing you right now. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, what's
Oh.
the inner workings of that? Like, what are those 97 people? Are they're prospects? Like, they're actually
Perfect.
looking for homes? They're
Yep, let me show you.
Says
Well,
that.
yes and no.
friends?
I'm going to show you right now. All right, let me show you. Great question.
Possibly, moving some?
Ultimately, here's what I would tell you. Now, so when I first learned this, when I learned it, the way I learned it, which I'm not training it this way, so don't hear it. I'm just telling you how it's changed. When I first learned this, we taught it as, and it was taught to me as, go get 200 people. Like, go get a phone book and rip out Anderson, and there's your 200 people. Like, call 200 Andersons. Like, that's the way we first started it.
I mean, I get it if it's your SOI.
Yeah. Well,
200 people that you know.
so to begin with, if you've got 200 people you know, start with that.
Okay.
Just,
I
in
get,
fact,
I get that if that's what you're talking
well,
about.
that's part of it.
Okay.
That's not the whole thing. But here's what I've found. So over the years, here's what I've found. If you've got 200 people in a sphere of influence that you could start it with, great. Start it with those 200 people. But what I've found is most people, the reason they don't call why do you guys not, those who are not calling your SOI, tell me why you don't. And tell the truth, because I already know the answer. So
I wasn't calling them because I felt like, especially if I haven't talked to them for a long time, but we're
Thank
friends,
you.
I didn't want to start with,
That's
hey,
right.
I'm a real estate agent. So I actually spent like half an hour with each of them talking about life to catch up. And I know sometimes that's not very effective, but for me it
No,
was
I think it's
because-
great.
Because for me it was like, they told me that I had a couple people that say, hey, my son's going to be moving back from New York, in June. And then I have a friend that's moving from Seattle to Salt Lake around June. So I have a lot of people that are moving in June.
yeah,
So,
so that's just it. Here's what I found. The reason most people don't work their sphere of influence is exactly what Gabby just said. They feel I haven't talked to them for so long, and now I call them. Well, now I only wanted it for business, and so as a result, they just don't ever do it. So I don't care if you'll call the people, start with that. But if you won't, then it's okay. Like, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. But you got to get 200 people somehow. So you figure it out. Now here's the next piece of this. And let me I gotta grab these for a minute. So let's assume out of these 200 people, so I'm going to answer your question, even though I know you may not be fully asking the question I'm going to answer, but that's okay. If I had 200 people, now watch what happens with this. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to draw it out this way. Of the 200 people, now this part, make sure you're paying attention so you don't get lost in what I'm about to say, because a lot of times, and if you do, it's okay, just stop me and ask. Because you got to understand this or it won't work. Actually, I'm going to use 100 only because it'll make the math easier, not instead of the 200. But keep in mind, it's still 200. Don't change it to now, oh, Russ used 100, so I can only do 100. No. Okay. So out of the 100 people, let's say that 50 of them are red and 50 are green, which I haven't explained what that means, and I will do that right now. Here's how I think about it. Think of it as, this is more just for a visual of you guys. This isn't really the way it works necessarily. Meaning, I'm saying think of 50 of them being red and 50 of them being green. A red is going to be somebody who is not going to do business with you or refer business to you. A green is somebody who will do business with you and refer business to you, and or refer business to you. Make sense? Now the truth is, I don't want any red. Like, would you want to stay in touch with anybody that was saying to you, no, I'm never going to use you or refer to you? No. But here's what happens is people lie. It is very easy to get people to lie. In fact, I'm going to show you in just 1 second. So the truth is some of this 100 are red and some of them are green. Again, red is they're not going to do it. Even though they'll tell you they will, they're not going to. But some are going to, even though they tell you they are. Now let me do quick. Does anybody have any business cards with them? Any real estate agents here? Can I borrow your cards? I just need like 10. I don't even probably need that many, but no, I think.
Oh, a ton of them?
Yeah, like, I'll give them
I
back.
have a ton. Yeah.
I'll give them. That's not 10.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, you
Two
want
of those
10
are-
cards?
I don't care who they are. Doesn't matter if they're not yours.
I don't know
or
how many
yours.
of those that is.
That this will work.
It's more than
Perfect.
10.
And then give them back to Kayla unless you don't care if they give them back. All right. Watch now. Okay, I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do for a second. I'm going to do a demonstration with you to show you what I'm talking about. Watch this. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Knock, knock.
there?
Yeah, there.
Who's there?
All right. Hi, my name is Russ, even though that's not what my card says. My name is Russ, and I'm a real estate agent local in the area, and I just wanted to see if you'd be willing to do me a favor.
What kind of favor?
Would you just hold on to my business card, and then if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call and I can help you.
Sure, why not?
Awesome, thank you.
Well, that's nice.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. Will you do me a favor?
Sure.
Would you just hold on to my business card, and if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call?
Sure.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. I like how easily you just took my card. Would you just hold on to that, and if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, would you give me a call?
Sure.
Awesome. Knock knock.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Russ. I'm with Century 21, and I help a lot of buyers and sellers in the area. Just wanted to see if you'd do me a favor and hold on to that business card, and then when you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling real estate anywhere, give me a call so I can help them.
Okay.
Is she there? Hi, my name's Russ. Even though my picture looks like you, would you do me a favor and hold on to my business card? And if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, give me a call. Knock knock. My name's Russ. I'm with Century 21. Would you hold on to my business card? And if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, give me a call and I can help.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
all right. I'm gonna skip you
I know.
guys just for the sake of time. Are you
Why?
gonna be offended? Are you?
A little.
Okay. Just for the sake of time. Knock knock.
Okay.
For real. If you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, you gonna give me a call and let me help them?
Sure.
You will? Okay.
Yeah.
For real. Great. If you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, you gonna let me help them?
Actually, my best friend is a real estate agent.
Oh, you're kidding. And you forgot that the first time?
I'm just being polite.
Oh. For real. You hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, are you gonna give me a call?
Actually, I just got my license
Oh, you're
myself.
kidding. So, just like in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I
I remembered.
Oh, you just remembered. You forgot.
Because I've only had it a couple days.
Oh, okay. For real. If you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, you gonna give me a call and let me help them?
Well, the truth is, I just moved into the area and I really don't know anybody.
That's okay. If you as you get to know people, if you heard of somebody, would you refer them to me?
Sure.
Okay, great. Good enough. For real. If you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, you gonna let me help them?
Yeah, I have a couple friends that are real estate agents, so I'd probably go to that.
You would.
Mhm.
Okay. For real. If you hear
Yes.
so you're gonna use.
I would
For
because
real.
I've done any real estate.
Okay.
so You're the first one.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's start over. For real.
For real.
For real.
Okay.
If you hear of somebody thinking of buying or selling, you gonna let me help them?
Well,
For real.
Yeah, for real. Okay, maybe, probably. I have friends.
Okay, great.
For real.
For real. For real.
No,
Why?
because I like my friend and I have a good relationship with him and
For real.
he does my own real estate for me, so.
No, but for real.
For real.
Okay, I'll come back. Catherine, for real.
For real, honestly, I don't do a whole lot of business with people that knock on my door.
Okay, but if you got to know me and you liked me,
Yes.
okay, well then just that's good enough for now.
Okay, sounds good.
For real. For real.
I don't know what to answer.
Well, I just want for real.
No problem.
Okay, why? Thank you. Why?
Because I still know
For real.
people that are doing.
For real.
Yeah, I already said yes.
For real.
Okay.
For real.
Yeah.
If you hear of somebody today, as soon as you leave this class, that says I need to sell my house, you're gonna call me and let me help. For real.
For real, I don't know. I'm busy right now.
I know, but But when you leave,
Oh, probably.
you'll call me.
Yeah, I
Okay.
call you, probably,
Okay.
I don't know.
See, it's more fun not being. For real.
I'm gonna give your card to someone tomorrow,
For real.
just so that you.
No, for real.
For real.
Okay, I'll come back. For real.
For real, I'm probably because you continue to bug me, I may
Okay.
not.
But if I'm not bugging you and you like me, would you?
Well, that's.
For real.
For real.
For real. Do you guys remember what we're doing? Do you remember what the exercise we're doing is? Do you remember what I told you at the start of this? How easy it is to get people to lie? For real. For real.
For real.
Yeah, for real.
For real. No, I'm not gonna use you.
Thank you. Why?
Well.
For real.
Well,
For real.
answer.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So why did you lie to me?
Well, because you were nice and I didn't want to disappoint you.
Oh, I'm not disappointed now. For real. For real.
No, I'm an
What?
agent.
Okay, so why did you lie to me?
Yeah, to make you, I don't know, hopeful.
Go away.
Yeah, go away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I like that.
For real.
I'm an agent,
So why did you lie to me?
because I like what you said.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel better. She's never going to use me, but she likes what I said, so she's going to waste all my time.
What you're saying.
For real. If you walk out of this room and somebody calls you and says, I need to sell my house, are you going to call me and let me do it? For real.
For real, if I know you, yeah, for sure, I will,
No, for real.
Um,
I'll come back. For real. For real, for real.
For real, for real.
Yeah, for real.
Well, no, I would do it myself, because I'm a real estate agent.
Oh, well, so why did you lie to me? You thought we were role playing. Because I never said for real.
Right.
So why did you lie to me? Why did you lie to me? For real.
I don't know.
Well, it's okay to say I thought we were role playing. Did you think we were role playing?
Well, yeah.
Okay. For real. Are you going to use me? Somebody
no,
called you. Why?
No, because
Why?
I'm an agent.
Okay. Now, what did you guys? The start of this whole exercise? What did I tell you I was going to show you?
People lie.
How easy it is to get people to lie to you. The hardest thing is to get people to tell you the truth. Like, look at how hard I tried to get the truth, and how hard was it to get the truth? And why was it so hard to get the truth?
Well, first I thought you were role playing. Yeah.
You what?
First I thought we were role playing. Like, I was just gonna.
No, I know. I totally set you up. It's clear. But even once I set you up on the first time, then when I came back though, I said, okay, for real. Like if you.
Most people lie.
I think people are just trying to be nice.
Guess so. Thank you. But that's what you guys need to realize is guess when I say to you up here, out of the 100 people who have said yes, they'll refer business to you, a number of them are lying. It's just you don't know it. Because why, Ashley?
They want to be nice.
They're trying to be nice. They don't want to hurt your feelings.
It's an objection.
So just know, and I'll come back to this in a minute. But so I still want to show you this, but I first had to show you how. Why? Do you understand now how you could have 100 people who have said, I'm going to refer business or do business with you, and 50 of them are not going to? The problem is you don't know who they are. If you did, you wouldn't have them in there. But the problem is they lie to you. And you can even say to them, like, for real, it's okay, my feelings wouldn't be hurt. And they'll go, no, it's fine. I'll refer people to you. But they're really, because are you guys really going to refer anybody to me to go help them?
No.
See, but yet, look at how many times, oh yeah, no, yeah, if I like you and you're nice, if you do a really good job, I will. But you really wouldn't, right? Okay, now watch this. Now watch what happened. Now remember I showed you over here this, like, you're going to have to do this, and you're going to go a while with nothing happening, then all of a sudden a whole bunch is going to happen. What I'm going to show you is how you get to this, because how you get to this spot here, the reason I say it doesn't matter who you start with is because of what I'm going to show you right now. Meaning, I could actually start this with 200 people that are all red, and it still will turn into this. And I'm going to show you how to get it to turn into that, even with 200 people that are red.
Detail.
Yeah, here's what's going to happen. But just for the sake of without it taking too long for me to demonstrate it, I'm going to start it at 50-50 versus starting it at 0, or all 100 red. Make sense? Okay. Now, so let's say, now remember, we said until you get to this point, you're going to have to do other forms of prospecting until you get to the point that you're doing the transactions you want to do. So I go out and I knock on doors. Or I call people on the phone. It doesn't really matter. I go do some version of prospecting, whatever it is.
Is that your pitch when you knock on doors?
No.
Okay.
No, that was just,
It was good.
That is my pitch. Well, actually, let me rephrase it. That is when I'm out, like if I'm at a grocery store, that is what I do. Like anytime you are giving somebody money, paying for something, you should do that. You should say, hey, would you do me a favor? Like I did this all the time. At the grocery store, we'd be paying for food. Will you do me a favor? And they're always going to say yes. Every time. Yeah, sure, what's up? Hand them a business card. Hey, I'm a real estate agent. Would you hold on to my business card? And if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling anywhere, give me a call. And they'll say yes, and they'll take your card. And then what do you think happens when you walk out the door?
Toss it.
They probably do. But not always. Go ahead.
Can I just tell you that was genius? Because I always was wondering, how can I approach people that I don't know, especially at a grocery store, and people keep saying, oh, talk to everybody at the grocery store, give me your card. It's like, but how?
Yep. Will you do me a
That is
favor?
perfect.
Yep. You just
That
hey,
is
will-
perfect.
In fact, when I first came into the business, the company that I was with called that the 7-second presentation.
That's awesome.
Was just, hey, will you do me a favor? And here's the cool thing. When you're in a restaurant or you're at the grocery store, whatever, you're at Chick-fil-A, and you do that, the thing that's cool about doing it there, they don't have the same barrier as if you went and knocked on their door.
Yeah.
Like when you go and that's the class, guys. Thanks for coming. I'm just kidding. The good news is they don't have the same barrier up. It is amazing how many times when you're at a grocery store and you do that and you go, hey, will you do me a favor? And they go, yeah, sure. Would you just hold on to my business card? And if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling, give me a call. And what will happen is they'll go, oh, you know what? I actually have a sister who's been talking about it. Like, it's amazing how many times that happens. Oh, great. Can I get their information? And a lot of times at that point, they go, oh, wait a minute. Like, and they'll go, well, I'll give them your card. Great. Can I get your name and phone number? And I'll just give you a call back to see if, I just want to make sure that you talk to them because, like, I love helping people, blah, 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 stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, now I'm ready to go now.
Yeah.
I'm not scared.
Okay, well, give me at least 20 more minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all it is. Will you do me a favor? Yeah, sure. And they always say yes. In fact, at one point what I did is I carried around a stack of cards in my pocket that I was like, I can't go home until I've given those cards out. I was driving home one day and I realized, oh shoot, I still have a card in my pocket I gotta give out. And I know exactly where I was at on the road. But I saw a gas station. I'm like, oh, perfect. They're not going anywhere. So I pulled into the gas station and walked up to somebody filling gas, putting gas in their car, because what are they going to do? They're not going to walk off or anything. They're putting gas in. So I did exactly that. Hey, would you do me a favor? And they were like, yeah, sure. I'm a real estate agent. I got openings that I could help people right now or whatever. If would you hold on to my card? And if yeah, sure, okay. And I got in the car and went home. Like, yeah, that's a great way to do it. Okay. So let me show you what we're going to do. So now I'm out prospecting, whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. Even if it's just that. You walk up to somebody at the grocery store. Hey, would you do me a favor? They say yes. Now, what I'm going to do then is if in the event they're not, think of it this way. I guess I got to say this first. You're prospecting on two parallel tracks. I'm looking for business now and in the future. The way I'm going to get now business is through an appointment. The future is through a lead. So what I want to do when I'm prospecting is my first objective is to set an appointment. But if I can't get an appointment, then I want to capture them as a lead. Here's what that's going to sound like. I work with a select group of people that I stay in touch with to keep them updated on the market. This is not exact, this is probably word for word what I say it, but it doesn't mean you have to say it that way. Just make sure you say, I work with a select group of people. I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay? Go ahead, Gil.
Does that word say future?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, future. Yeah, sorry. If you can't spell a word more than one way, you're not very creative. So. Yeah, it does say future. So I'm looking for now business, but at the same time, I'm looking for the future. And I'm going to try to get an appointment first, but if there's not an appointment to be had, I want to add them to this. And so I'm just going to say, I work with a select group of people. I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay? They'll say yes. And you say, what that would mean is I'll keep you updated on the market, stuff like that. Make sense? And then I need to get from them a phone number because I got to have personal contact and an email address and an address if I can, because then I can mail stuff to them if I want. And so you can do any version, personal contact every month, and then mail or email or a combination. So you could do email twice and then a mail if you want. Like, what doesn't matter. All right. Now what happens though? So let's say I go do that over here at Smith's, since I can see Smith's out the window, and I walk up to somebody and I say, I work with a select group of people, or excuse me, would you do me a favor? I give them a card, whatever. I get them and they say, yes, you can add me to your list. Let's say that I do that multiple times throughout the week. So at the end of the week, I have added 10 people now to this. Now what's the first protocol? Fixed in size. Yeah, I probably should have written it. Whenever I say what's the protocol, it's fixed in size is really the answer. But closed system is, fixed in size is what makes it a closed system. So just, it's got to be fixed in size, okay? Now, so let's say at the end of the week I got 10 leads. So I'm going to add 10 people to here. Now, my belief is I'm adding 10 greens. Because remember, a green is somebody who's either going to do business with me or refer it to me. And I wouldn't want to, if I walked up to Ashley and said, hey, will you do me a favor? And she says no, am I going to add her to my list? Probably not. If I knocked on her door and was saying, hey, well, when do you plan on moving? Never, I hate you. Hate agents. Slams the door. Am I going to add her to this? No. So you're only adding people that are green. But as I just showed to you, some of the people you're adding as green are really red. They're just lying to you. But you don't know that. So we're always assuming they're green. Now, for the sake of what I'm going to show you next, let's just say that we know, even though we don't know. But so let's say I got 10 people as leads. How many of those 10 would you say for real, are going to either do a deal with me or refer it to me? So if I just found 10 people knocking on doors that said either yes, we've thought about it, or I know of somebody who's moving or whatever, how many out of the 10 would you say we could realistically say would probably be green? The other ones are saying yes, so we think they're green, but they're really not. They're lying to us. They're red.
1 green.
1 out of the 10?
1.4?
3%. 3 of them.
Okay, I don't care. What do you want to do? 3? Let's do 3 and see what happens. So I'm going to add 3 that end up being red, 7 that end up being green. Now, just to make sure you guys are following me, if I knew they're red, I'm not adding them. But we're just saying, let's pretend we had a crystal ball and we could see into the future. What we would find out is that 7 were red and only 3 were green. Now, look at what just happened. So somebody pull out the calculator and do the math on this. So up here, the reason I used 100 is what were my odds?
50-50.
50-50. Okay. So now somebody divide 53 into 110. Tell me what that percentage is. Or I'll do it since nobody's moving. Are you getting it, Catherine? Or are you
Yeah, I'm
texting?
trying to get a calculator here.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. So 53 into 110?
Yep. What percentage is that?
48.
48. Okay. Now watch what happened. This is the problem with not doing this as an open system. Look what just happened. Up here it was 50-50. Right? But in an open system, I just went to 110 and my percentage here got worse. Now, stop and think about that for a minute. When I talk about somebody with if you kept doing that and got to 4,000, this is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse, which is why somebody can have 4,000 and not do 400 transactions, is because in an open system, the more people that you add to it, what tends to happen is the greater percentage of them end up being red. People that are not going to do business or refer business to you grows bigger and bigger and bigger. That's an open system. Meaning if I did it again the next week, and we added 3 more and 7 more, we're going to now be at 120. This is going to be at 56, and this is going to be at whatever, 64. And then this is probably going to be at 54%, and that's going to be at 46%.
The red does sometimes go to green, eventually.
Well,
over time.
yeah. Well, keep in mind, we think all of these are red. What I'm just saying is a percentage of them are lying to you. And the challenge you're going to have is to get them to tell the truth. So yes, I agree totally with what you're saying. There are going to be some that you put them in and they're red. You don't know it. You think they're green, but they really are red. That over time turn green. 100%. Totally agree with you. The problem is we just don't know which ones those are because there's going to be a number of them that are going to keep lying to you. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But can you see that here? Now, what's our first protocol?
Fix inside.
So what do I have to do to clean up this mess? Because look at what happened. The workload just went up 10%. If I got to contact these people every month, I now got to contact 10% more people to get less that are going to do something.
So you gotta drop 10.
So I got to get rid of 10. Now what 10 should I get? Should I get rid of any of the green?
No.
Never.
So instead, now watch, this is where this closed system becomes so magical. So now I'm going to get rid of 10 red. So I'm going to minus 10. So now I've got 47 red, 53 green. I'm at 100 here. My percentage went to 47% here and 53% here. What's going to happen if we did it again and we added, let's just say another, just for fun, let me just say we ended up with, we had a really good week and we ended up with 7 red, green, and 3 red. So now we're at 50, 60, and 110 again over here. But what's our first protocol?
10
Fixed
red.
it.
So we got to get rid of 10. We're not going to get rid of the 10 greens, so we get rid of these. So now we're at 40, 60, 100, and look at what my percentage did now. See, the secret to this is, here's what I want you guys to see from this. It really doesn't matter who you add in. What matters is what?
That you're adding and subtracting.
And subtracting specifically
Yeah.
the red. The main thing that you got to get good at is getting rid of the reds. See, the challenge isn't adding people. The biggest challenge you face in this is getting people to tell you the truth. To figure out that they're red. Now, so let's talk about that for a minute because that's the next protocol. Actually, it's the last one. Let me give you the next one first. The next protocol that you need to have, so number 3, is you need permission from every one of these people to be in your database. So if you're going to start with 200 people you know, guess what you got to do with those 200 people first thing? And here's what permission sounds like, which I've already given it to you. But I'm putting together a select group of people that I'm going to stay in touch with about real estate. I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay? Now, for the people you know, and even the other ones, I would say what that means is I'm going to stay in touch with you to keep you updated on the market. I'm just going to provide information about what's going on in your area and in the local market to keep you updated and answer any questions you might have about real estate. Would that be okay? And from the people you know, they're going to say yes. The challenge is some of them are saying yes just to be nice to you, and so we got to try to figure out a way that if they're red or not. So the first thing we need to do is get permission. Same thing when you're prospecting. Anybody you talk to that you don't get an appointment with, because that's your objective, but if I can't get an appointment, then I'm going to go to permission. I have a select group of people that I stay in touch with. I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay? Yes, great. What that means is I'm going to stay in touch with you from time to time, keep you updated on the market, answer questions about real estate, and hopefully, if you hear of somebody, you would refer them to me. Yep, great. Let me get your information. I'll stay in touch with you. Making sense on the permission? Then, once I've got permission, now I'm going to contact them once a month. The once a month contact is just going to look like this. So, Dave, I'd give him a call and I say, hey, just touching base, see how things are going for you. Want to make sure you got the email that I sent to you. Do you have any questions about it? Okay. Well, hey, if you hear of anybody thinking of buying or selling, I'd appreciate it if you pass them on to me. And if you have anything I can do for you, just let me know. Like, that's it. It doesn't have to be anything, like, you can keep it totally business related if you want. That's totally fine. Now, some of the people you know, that phone call is probably going to last longer than 2 minutes. But some of these other people that you put in from a database, they're probably not going to be more than 2 minutes of a phone call. unless you start asking other questions, which is great, like asking about their family and some of those things. But just keep in mind, like, essentially we're talking about 10 calls a day to do that. That's not, it shouldn't be overwhelming to do that. And it should be people that you're calling that you like as well. Now, the purpose, now this piece is crucial. Because when I asked Chris earlier if he remembered the protocols, I'm glad you're back, because now I can pick on you. You were gone and I didn't have anyone to pick on. Do you remember the last protocol now, or no? Okay, good. So I'm going to watch this. And I don't know what he's going to say. He might be right, he might be wrong, I don't know. Most likely, though, you guys are going to forget this piece. Although maybe now that I said that, you'll go the opposite direction. But when you're calling these people once a month here, what am I calling for? What is the purpose? Do you
Now I
remember?
remember, yeah.
Okay, then don't answer.
Yeah.
What am I calling for?
An appointment. You eventually want to.
See, that's the problem with this, is we tend to think that we're calling to get an appointment from one of the greens. But it's actually counterintuitive. We're doing the opposite of that. So what am I calling for?
To remove the reds from your list.
That's right. The whole purpose of my phone call is not to get an appointment with these people. Now, I'll show you why in a sec. But my purpose of this phone call over here and this email is so that I can call to figure out who the red is. And why? Why am I not worried about the green?
Because you know they're solid.
That's right. The green will take care of themselves. That's the cool thing about this. But this is so important, this piece. You have to remember that this is the last protocol, is when you are calling them, you're looking for the red. What I demonstrated to you guys before of how easy it is to get people to lie to you, you're just trying to get them to tell you the truth. Now, you're not going to do it the way I did. You're not going to do it as like, for real. No, for real. Are you no, come on. Are you really going to? Like, we don't want to do that. But so how would I figure out that somebody is red when I call them?
They quit answering your phone call?
Boom, that's one of the ways. So let me show you how to deal with that. So let's say that I'm calling, and as I call, I'm calling Gabby, and she doesn't answer the phone. Now, because you have permission, it's okay to leave a message. So I leave a message, and I say, Gabby, this is Russ, Century 21, just touching base with you. Just want to make sure you got the email that I had sent out to you this month. I just want to see what questions you had, if there was anything I can do to help you with real estate, or if you've heard of anybody. Give me a call. Click. I hang up. She listens to it. If she's red, what's she going to do?
Delete it.
Delete it. So now the next month I call. Get her voicemail. Gabby, this is Russ. Just touching base with you again. Hope you're doing well. Wanting to make sure that you're getting the email. Wanted to see if you had any questions. Give me a call back. What's she going to do if she's red?
So it goes to voicemail.
She would block your call, actually.
Block your call.
Could be. So now the next month I call and it goes straight to voicemail. And I say, Gabby, this is Russ. Hey, just touching base. Hope everything's well. Haven't talked to you for a while. Please give me a call back. She doesn't call me back.
She's red.
So at that point for me, now you can decide for yourself, but for me, I gave them 3 tries like that. On the 4th try, watch what I do. Ring, ring, and I get her voicemail. Gabby, this is Russ. Hey, I got a really important question for you. Give me a call back.
She will call me.
Now, if she calls back, but let's say she doesn't.
Oh, that means
If she doesn't call me back, what is she telling me?
she doesn't like
She's red. So guess what I do? Now remember, what are we looking for? So if I'm looking for red and I find one, how should I respond?
Should be super excited.
Yeah. So when she doesn't call me back, instead of what we would typically, if we're looking for green, we'd be like, oh, she didn't call me back. She doesn't like me. People don't like we feel bad about it. But if I'm looking for red and she doesn't call me back, yes! 99. Awesome. Now what do I got to do though?
Find a green.
I got to go find a new one. But here's the good news. Anybody I find is going to be better than that. Right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm excited. Because the challenge of this is to get people to tell you the truth. See, what I would prefer is that she answered the phone and said, Russ, don't ever call me again. I'm never going to refer to anybody to you ever.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, that's what I'm looking for.
I wish there was a script that just kind of got them to, you know.
Yeah, the
just
problem
tell
is
the truth.
the problem, look at how hard it was to get,
Yeah.
like, even with me going, for real. No, for real. Because the problem is they'll go, yeah, no, I promise, I will. I just don't know anybody. I promise, when I hear, I will. And they're never going to. Okay, so how else am I going to know they're red? So that's one of the ways. So let me make sure you guys got it. Calling them and saying, I have a really important question, call me back, and they don't call you back, they're telling you they're red. Because you're right. If I called and said, I've got a really important question, if they're curious, they're going to call me back. Now, what am I going to say if Gabby calls me back? What's my really important question? I'll give it to you. Nope, close though, close. Here's what I'm going to say. So, Gabby, I just want to make sure you're still okay with me contacting you monthly. Is that still okay? See, essentially all I'm doing is reestablishing permission. As soon as you feel like they've revoked it, like they've revoked it sometimes by not calling you back, when I get her to call me back by saying, I've got a really important question, my really important question is, are you still okay with me contacting you? And if she says, well, I mean, I'm just probably not going to do anything and I don't know anybody. Okay, hey, great. I appreciate it. No problem. Thanks for letting me know. You know, I'll see you at Mom's birthday party. Just kidding. Does that make sense? So how else am I going to know they're red?
The blocker call.
Okay, good. How else?
They'll tell you.
Yeah, they just flat out tell me. Like, I call up and they just go, hey, don't call me anymore. Okay. And again, don't feel bad. You should hang up and be like, yes, thank you. Because look, every time I figure out a red and I get rid of them and replace them, this is going up. And what happens if this just continues to get, like, stop and think about it for a minute.
Well,
In
you're
fact,
wasting your time either.
yeah, so let me connect a dot here. No pun intended, but that's this. That's the free throw. As soon as I get rid of somebody, like, good, I got a free throw. I don't have to do it anymore. I can get rid of that. Now, let me just quickly show you what happens here. Let's say that I've got the 200 people. Let's say that I've gotten it to 60% being green. Now, let me actually, real quick. You are never going to hit 100%. Well, highly unlikely. If you do hit 100%, oh, we're out of time. If you do hit 100%, it'll be for a day or two. And then somebody's going to die, or somebody's going to get their real estate license, or just tell you, don't ever call me again. But just know you're probably never going to get there. But let's say that I had 200 people and 60% of them really were going to refer somebody to me. How many referrals would that be throughout the year?
Be up to 10.
Or potentially them doing a deal with me? If 60%, what's 60% of this? Yeah, 120. Now, are all 120 going to do something with me? Like if a friend calls you and goes, oh, you ought to call my friend and see what they were talking about buying. Like, is it possible when you call that friend that they're going to go, oh, yeah, but my brother's an agent?
Exactly, that just happened to me yesterday.
Yeah, like so I'm not going to get all 120. What percentage of that would you say would be realistic, though, that you could get that is a referral? I mean, 50?
50%.
Yeah. So okay. So let's say that I get 60 of those that say, yeah, I would love to talk to you, and I go out and talk to them. Not all of those are going to turn into a deal either, but would it be safe to say 30 of them would? And let's say that we just times that by, what should we say? Let's just say $5,000 as an average commission that you're going to get. Equals $150,000 a year. Just by following this. Like, can you see? This is why I can tell you I guarantee it will work. Because all you've got to do is get good at getting rid of the red and having more green. And the more you do that, the reason it's going to take, that I said it's a 3 to 6 month process, is you're going to, some of the people that you add in, the very first month you call them are going to say, don't ever call me again. Because you were standing at their door and they said yes just to get you off the doorstep. And then you call them and they say, don't ever call me again. I don't even know who you are. Leave me alone. So now I get rid of them and I got to put somebody else in. But here's what I will promise you will happen. You do that enough and it's just going to consistently get more and more to the green side. And once you hit to the point where you have got 60%, I'm telling you, for me, that's the number of when I would say this has taken place, is when you can get to 60% green. Now, the challenge is you don't really know you've hit here until your business is doing this. But here's what's going to happen. So I'll just finish up with this and then I'll answer any questions. If you will just keep doing this process during this, just keep doing it. Don't stop and keep making your contacts, doing this. All of a sudden, I promise you, you are going to know when this happens. Because all of a sudden you're going to go from like, I'm doing a deal here and there, to all of a sudden you got 4 or 5 deals in 1 month. And then the next month you see it lining up again to be 3 or 4 deals. Like, that's when you're going to know it's popped through the ground, the root system's in place, it's working. And it will continue to work as long as you keep doing it. Guaranteed. Like, it has been now probably over 10 years now, 10, 11, or 12 years even, since I have worked this system. I still today, in fact, on Sunday, I was driving my car past a guy in my neighborhood that was in this group, flagged me down, rolled down the window, and he goes, hey, I'm looking to buy 3 or 4 more investment properties. Like, I haven't been doing any of this. That's the good news. Once you get it up and running, now don't hear that you can quit, because it's not like, I'm telling you, I'm not doing 30 deals a year anymore because I'm not working this. But I still have a handful of people that call me every year that say, help me out, I need to buy or sell. And then I go call up my son and go, hey, here, go take. In fact, I just saw a text, the guy I was just talking about, which is what made me think of it. When I pulled my phone out to do the thing, my son texted me and said, hey, we're not going to be selling him any properties, haha. And I don't know why yet. But so he called the guy that talked to me on Sunday, and apparently, I don't know what that means, but I'll find out later. But my point being, once you get this working, like, it'll continue to generate business for you. I haven't been doing it, and I still, 11 years later, people are still calling me, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that. Like, so imagine, though, if I still was doing it, I would be doing 40, 50, 60 deals a year, no question. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, what questions? Sorry, I'm 2 minutes over.
What was the interesting thing you learned about the market?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. So one of the things that I do is, and I haven't been very diligent for the last month, so that's why I was shocked yesterday. Every Friday, I go in and I have a spreadsheet that I track the number of homes for sale. I think the MLS will now do it, but I've been doing it for so long that I just am still doing it. But I just, every Friday, go in and see how many active homes are there, single family, in Salt Lake County. And the reason I track that is I always want to know what the inventory is, because I feel like that tells you what's going on in the market. I started that in 2006 is when I started tracking it. There were 3,000 homes for sale in 2006. What was happening in our home prices during 2006? You guys know? It was going nuts. And so that's the reason I started to track it, was because I was like, the next time this happens, I don't want to miss it. So I started tracking it. In 2009, what was going on in the market?
Crash.
Guess how many homes were for sale in Salt Lake County? So there was 3,000 in 2006 for sale. Guess how many there were for sale in 2009?
300.
Almost 9,000. It was 80. Our peak homes for sale in Salt Lake County got up to 8,800 homes for sale. Anybody know how many are for sale today?
1,500.
Less.
Really?
Not by much. It's
not.
1,400 and something. Our inventory is the lowest I have ever seen it.
And we got buyers off the wazoo.
Like, it's crazy. Now, here's the interesting thing. So this to me is where it's interesting. We are not, the market is not as crazy as it was 2 years ago, though.
Right.
Yet we have less homes for sale. Why? Because technically our prices should be going through the roof.
Are more people moving in and less people moving out of Utah?
Definitely less inventory.
Yeah. But I mean.
But why? So why are, like, we're not, to some extent at the lower price range, we still seeing multiple offers. In fact, I heard somebody yesterday saying something about listed a property and got 10 offers or something. But
there's not a lot of low priced stuff.
that's the problem.
That's nice.
Where are you gonna move?
Is affordability.
Yeah.
So our inventory is so low, but there's just not affordable is the challenge. So anyway, it's just fascinating to me that we're at 1,400 homes for sale. Like, what I'm saying is, go find buyers or listings, not buyers. Go find listings. Like, part of what you should be doing in your door knocking is just saying, if you have thought at all about selling your house, now is the time. because there is we are the lowest inventory we have ever had. They're going to get top dollar for their house right now. So anyway, thanks for asking. What else? Okay. Don't forget 4 protocols if you'll do it. And here's the other thing I'm telling you. You are going to forget, and specifically, you're going to forget this if you don't incorporate it and do it. So that's why I say, honestly, keep coming back here over and over and over again until you are doing it.
I'm gonna put in a 3x5 card.
Do
I
it.
see it every
Yeah.
single day. so
Do
I'm
it.
gonna-
And every time I see you, I'm going to say, when you make your phone calls, what are you looking for? And if you say an appointment, I'm going to go, You're looking for the red till you can get rid of them. Now, the reason is the green take care of themselves. If you get somebody in there that's green, they call you when they're ready. That's why you're calling for the red, is somebody that's green is just going to call you and say, David, come list my house. Hey, we want to buy. We're ready. Let's go. That's why you don't have to worry about the green. You're calling to figure out, should you keep calling? So, make sense? Okay. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you.